Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Tom Matuska here, all by myself, flying solo today with the Matuska Taxidermy Supply Company, Thursday afternoon, Facebook Live. And we're going to continue on with our Bobcat project. And everybody, we got a beautiful weather here again, and bean fields are starting to turn color, and everything's starting to dry up. And I think all of you are probably not thinking about taxidermy quite as much as you are your tree stand and your trail cameras and that sort of thing. It's getting to be that time of year, and before you know it, you're going to be knee-high in deer and elk and everything else coming in. So I hope we can help you out with some of that, and just enjoy the fall, because it comes upon us really fast and it's gone before you know it. Enjoy this time of the year. It's what we all live for. So if you followed us the last few episodes, and they are episodes, we're working on a Bobcat, and this Bobcat was a walking Bobcat that we altered. So any of you that are fearful of altering a mannequin, look back. I don't think we made it look difficult. I think we made it look real easy. And if you haven't done a lot of alterations, you can be pretty intimidated when it comes to that. But I think we demonstrated. We took this from a standing Bobcat to a climbing down, changed the habitat and changed the feet locations and the body angle on this cat. It was a little bit extensive and went pretty easy, and you can look back on our archives and see that, and I think you can find it on YouTube, or you can find it on our Facebook Live archives. And this Bobcat is a closed mouth coming down. We showed you last week how to set an eye. I think Brett set an eye for you. I put another one in today. Let me get him back here a little bit. These are reflective eyes, and we like to use them in a lot of different animals. We like to use them in our Bobcats. We put them in our bears. They're European eyes, and they kind of add another element. They've got that reflective attribute like nocturnal animals will have, and it's the kind of eye that you don't notice anything different about it unless you shine a light in it, just like you would in real life. If an animal gets in the headlights, you're going to see that reflective quality. I'm going to step back and see if Kate can't just zoom in on his face, and I will shine a flashlight from way back here. And they're a real nice subtle eye. I don't know if you can see him. It's kind of bright green from here. You got to be looking straight ahead on him. But we like them. They look really, really good. I know a lot of our mountain lion customers out west buy them in major quantities because they look really nice on those lions, and we like to use them, and the price is reasonable. I think they run, there's 3 different varieties. I think there's a flat back, there's one that gives you a little more reflectiveness, and then there's a real concave one that adds the most reflective quality. And I think they run anywhere on a Bobcat like this from $14 to $22 or $24, which isn't a whole lot more, a couple dollars more than a regular glass eye. But anyway, not to mention that they're very difficult to get this time of the economy over there and over here. So when they're available, we like to use them. So that's what I put in here. We had drilled out the nostrils last week using a small drill bit. Now it's pretty tough to drill those nostrils out exactly what we want, so I made them plenty oversized, and I'm going to line them with clay. If I line them with clay, I can tuck my skin in there and use that clay to shape my nostril a lot easier than I can shape the nostril with a Dremel bit. Also, we cut the lip slot and used a very small drill bit. You can use a small tool, or any of the eye tools. Little tools like this will work to cut a lip slot keep it somewhat small, and you need to correlate your lip slot tool and width that you cut with the skin that you thin. You'll know that when you flesh an animal, the lips can be pretty plump and full. When you tuck that skin, you can't be tucking that great thickness of skin, because all that tissue has a lot of moisture in it, and it will go in, but it'll force your lip slot very, very large if it's not fleshed properly. And when you force that lip slot large, then the lip dries out in time, and it leaves you a very big black void because your lip skin was not fleshed properly, and your lip slot got spread when you tucked it, and then it dried down. So try to thin all of your membranes, like your inside of your nostril, very thin, your lips very thin, eyelids thin, the whole face, as a matter of fact. One thing that we like to, that really is helpful to us, is we will use a Dremel with a, I call them a drum sander. I'm not entirely sure what the name of it is, but they're a little bitty drum sander, or a little bitty drum that goes on your Dremel tool. And I like to use a fine one. When your skin begins to dry out, like this has been sitting on the table for probably an hour and a half now, and we just take these little dowels that we have. You should have a whole set of these, all different sizes. You can make them yourself, or you can buy them. It doesn't matter. By sticking that through the nostril in a reverse way like that, now I can take this Dremel. Don't use the big coarse ones. You use the coarse ones, you're going to cut a hole. This is very fine. And if that skin is dry enough, you can take your Dremel tool and you can really, really fine tune your tuckable membranes. Now, if your skin is very wet and very full of moisture, you're going to gum up the grit on your sanding drum, so you do want it extremely kind of drying out will work the best. Now, some people, when they talk about a Dremel, they think you flesh the whole animal with a Dremel, and you're just going to go through way too many of the little sanding drums, and you're going to gum them up and ruin them, and you're eventually going to burn out your Dremel. And Dremel is just a generic word. This is a Milwaukee rotary tool. But most of your fleshing is going to be done with a knife or a scalpel. You know, use something like this, or one of your knives for the majority of the fleshing. The only time I would use this is to really, really fine tune areas like the nostril. I would use it on the eye skin, and I also used it on the lips on this cat. And these lips are as thin as I could ever get them, and all I did was fold them over my finger, and you're not going to hurt yourself. Fold them over your finger and just sand right against stretching out your skin over your finger. And that'll give you the thinnest, nicest tucking lips and nose that you'll ever be able to achieve. Now, my nostrils, I have a lot of nostril skin here, and if I tuck that much nostril skin, two problems with that. I'm tucking much too much skin up into the nasal cavity. I can't figure out what it's doing after it gets back more than 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to trim this way back. I do not need that much. But just don't cut through the front of the pink nose. Now, if any of you have good ideas of how you do it, feel free to text us and share it with your fellow taxidermists, or if you have any questions on what I'm doing, make sure that you share it.
Julie,
And we get, whoops, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Julie Spencer would like to know, what grit on the Dremel do you use?
I don't know other than fine. It's a real fine one. And I think if you go to, I get a lot of them at Menards and that type of a store. Usually they'll have a fine, medium, and a coarse, maybe even an extra coarse. I would get the fine unless you want to take off a lot. And if you do want to take off, I mean, you can flesh as much as you want. If you do want to get a lot of heavier stuff, go ahead and do the coarse. The coarse will work good. And we have had people many times try to flesh the whole surface of the animal's face with a Dremel tool. And like I said, you're going to kind of eventually burn up your Dremel tool. And I think Brett inserted this ear the other day, and it held. We just laid this in the freezer till we were ready for it for this session, and it dried down really, really nice. Now, I like to look at, people send me pictures of their mounts. I just had a student send me a picture of a white-tailed deer that he did the other day, and you know, everybody focuses in on the eyes and things like that, which are super important. You can't discount the importance of the eyes looking good, but one of the first things that catches my eye and attention is the nice clean edge of an ear. Ears are not wavy, they're not wiggly. This is a really nice looking ear, and it's already drying and set, and it's going to stay that way. That's going to be a really nice ear. We'll probably take a little wire brush and we'll do a little back brushing on this ear where he's got put some loft in his hair. He's got his little secondary auricle gland over here. So just before we started today, I put this one in, and it's still very wet with hide paste, so I'll want to be careful with it. And I line up the edges. I just used Pro 1 hide paste, Dermagrip Pro 1. I think Brett used the pink Dermagrip. I don't see the color difference. Sometimes you will. This is a little secondary auricle. We put clay. We put clay up in there, just a little pea of clay, and shaped it. And you'll be able to shape that as long as that clay stays pliable. And so that's how we do the ears. Now those ears, you remember he was talking about the other day, leaving the cartilage in. Most animals, we take the cartilage out. If it were a deer, an elk, or you know, a black buck or Cape buffalo, whatever it happens to be, we take the cartilage out of nearly every animal we do. When we attempt, and we can do it, we can take the cartilage out of a fox or a bobcat. It's much more fragile, it's more delicate, and the chances of putting a hole in it are kind of pretty good no matter how careful you are or how much experience you've had. But taking the cartilage out of those small animals, you can really do a lot of damage. So long time ago, we thin our ear bases down here, our ear butts, thin those really good. We use the trademark thermoform plastic ear liners, and you can't tell. This ear, I cannot tell the thickness is any thicker than the real bobcat had. And that's with the cartilage in. So it's obviously thicker, but I can't tell it, and it looks great. So I'm going to be pretty happy if his ears stay like that. All right. Another thing that you're going to want to pay attention to is the claws. Bobcats, mountain lions, lynx have retractable claws. Typically, when an animal is in a position like this, all his feet they're not climbing, they're not attacking, they're not defending. You're not going to find claws. You might be able to feel in there and feel a claw tip, but the actual claw is retracted. It's way back in. If he were grabbing onto a snowshoe hare or going after something, he's going to have his claws out and he wants to hook that. You don't want claws out in a position like this if you want to be somewhat accurate in your pose and the picture you're trying to paint with your animal. So I don't know if you've ever tried before, but trying to situate his claws where they go on a tan skin can be kind of difficult. They don't want to retract like they did, especially when you've already taken the toe bones out. They don't want to retract like they did in real life. So we found that it's very helpful to remove the claws. And you're not going to see them anyway. You can barely feel them. Nobody's going to know if they're there or not. And we can shape the foot much nicer if he doesn't have a claw. This is a little piece of clay that I just kind of shaped like a toe. The toes look like this. When that claw's retracted, it goes way back, and you can feel just the tip. Yeah, that's good. Just the tip. The tip is right up here. Should have washed my fingers if I knew you were going to do this. But that's how the claws retract. And if you want to take an animal that you're not going to, don't need the claws on or the foot on, take it apart and see how it works. It's fascinating how these animals were designed. So we're going to remove the claws, and it'll take 2 stitches in each claw, and that will be sealed up. I'll be able to shape his feet real accurately. They have a very square foot, the way the toes bend, and when that claw is retracted, it's kind of almost a square, and it's much easier for me to get that look and shape if I don't have claws to deal with. Now, some animals like a mountain lion claws are, they're kind of a trophy. They're big piece of coolness, I guess, for lack of another word. Mountain lion claws, bear claws, things like that. So sometimes I will even save the front claws for the hunter, and he can make jewelry out of them. He can make, they make rings out of them, make pendants out of them, all kinds of different things. And the mounted animal will be very natural. So you wouldn't want to do that on a bear. Don't take the claws off of a bear because those are going to be pronounced. They're not retractable. To get the claws out, a couple different ways you can do it. I just take a little needle nose, and I like to, now we've removed the toe bone. When we skin this animal, we remove the toe bone. Then he was tanned, so the toe bone's been removed. All I have left here is the claw itself, and I'm just going to take this needle nose, grab onto it, and with my fingernail, I can scrape that down, the skin down the side of that claw, and it doesn't take very much, and it will come loose itself, or you can cut it. There, it's kind of starting to come loose. And it's not hard to do. You can save them for the customer, or you can leave them in. But it's not a big, difficult process. I'm not cutting, I'm not doing anything, I'm just working these claws back, and they're coming out themselves. And the hole is very, very, very minuscule. If you want to use a scalpel, you can use a scalpel. And most of the time they come right out easy. Now at some time before the mounting process, get yourself needle and thread, 2 stitches in that one, 2 stitches in that one, and so on all the way across. Trim up any tissue that's hanging on here. When it gets time to mount your claws on your feet, you are gonna now we have toe bones on here, but we'll have to tuck. If you're going to use this paw, you're going to have to tuck way up in here. So you would have to make a tuck slot for the skin that's in between your toes. If you make a tuck slot in between each toe, as you're tucking those, there's a good chance that you're going to bust the toes off. On big animals like a mountain lion or even a bear, where we're going to be tucking skin in between the mannequin's toes, oftentimes we will either reinforce each toe with a heavy piece of wire or make the entire paw out of clay and free form it, tuck that skin right in between the clay and shape your paws, your toes out of clay. Works pretty good. Another thing that we've done over the years is, if you're going to tan them yourself, leave your actual toe bones for probably 2 full digits back or 3 digits back, and build those up with clay. Just leave them on, flush them really good. The tendons will hold the bones together and they'll bend exactly where they're supposed to bend, and your claw will stay attached. We do that. We've done that in the past too. And don't forget, do we have to tell them to like and share, like and share, like and share?
Yes, like
and they might win
share.
something.
And if you have any questions, make sure to tune them into the comments.
Today is a good gift, so these people won't get it. Last people get it, right?
But if they share today, they may just next week.
Okay, if you got any questions, type in. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, we showed you tuck grooves, and it's very important to have tuck grooves at some point. You don't want to start sewing on your animal and then realize you don't have a tuck groove that you need, because it's much harder to do. Once you start putting him together and his feet are all on, it's going to be harder for you to cut up in here. And remember, like we said, we put one back here. I think we got one up here and on the other side. It's always better, when you're not sure if you need a tuck groove or not, put one in, because the worst that'll happen is your skin drums across it and nobody knows it's there. So a tuck groove that you didn't use will not hurt you at all. It works fine. Okay, I think the next thing I'm going to do is slide his head on, and you see a little bit of clay up on his whisker pad. If you look at especially fox, and fox is a good one, bobcats, you will see that when he's fleshed, you have a very wide isthmus of dark skin going down the little cleft in his upper lip. There's a little, it's got a white strip down it. You can see it on the screen now. Right below, I'm going to point to it with my knife, right here. Now that is probably a strong 3/8 of an inch wide. It's pretty wide. And you'll see a lot of fox and a lot of bobcats mounted in a passive position, not a snarling position. And they have a big stripe down there under their nose. And then what the taxidermist, who doesn't quite understand what's going on there, will do is, he's got this dried up skin, so he'll take his airbrush or oil paints or pan pastels, and he tries to color that into a natural skin look, which just draws attention to that big stripe underneath his nose. If you look at any of the pictures of fox or bobcats, I don't see any avenue of darkness no hairless skin below that V of the nose. Now on a snarling bobcat or snarling fox or coyote, you're going to see that spread apart because he's got wrinkles all over the side of his face, his lips are curled up, this gets stretched. On a passive animal, that all stays hair to hair. I put some clay up here, and when I slide this skin on, I'm going to get the lips tucked eventually. I'm going to take a little tool of some sort, and I'm going to push that little V in, and I'm going to take that clay from the side, and I'm going to force that clay against that V, and it's going to go away. Done right. So I'm just going to push that skin together, make a little crease in that clevis, and that's what I'm going to use that clay for. It wasn't because it's a bad mannequin or anything like that. They can't put that in there, or they would not get that head out in a two-piece mold, is why it's not molded in for you. Okay, now you may do the most beautiful eye set in the whole world and do all this clay work on them, and you think you're a master face sculptor, only to slide the skin on and you've distorted everything. So we're going to be careful, but understand that when we slide it on, things are going to move a little bit. The good thing is you should have the right amount of clay in the right spot, and all it has to be is reshaped just a little bit. I'm going to put, remember we talked about there's not a lot of ear butt necessary because that trademark ear sets down into this receptacle where the ear goes. Very little ear butt is actually going to show. It's all on the mannequin, but I am going to take a ring of clay and I'm going to outline this so that once the ears are in place, I can push that clay up against the ear and make a nice transition between my head muscle and my ear. And you can use any clay you want. You can use critter clay, or you can use stoneware moist, animal clay. This all works really well. The critter clays and the animal clay are your stronger clays. Are both guys still watching?
Yeah, we've got 24 on Facebook and 15 on YouTube. Randall Dickinson says, thanks for the videos and live sessions you guys do.
You are welcome. It's fun to do it. Now it's possible I get this clay on here and when I get the head on, it's all gone. I'll just have to locate it and reposition it. Now if your clay is somewhat soft, the nice thing about it is you can, if you have it too heavy in some spot, you can just kind of smash it down and thin it out. Now you notice on this mannequin we've got, I see screw holes, I have some foam that's got some air bubbles in it, I've got Bondo that's didn't get sanded perfectly smooth, and if this were a, African Impala, it would be very important to get this flawlessly smooth. On a Bobcat, I'm going to take clay as I go, and any major areas, like I got a big old screw hole right here that I took out, a little piece of clay smoothed over it like that with hide paste, nobody's ever going to know it was ever there. So on a bobcat, I'm not very concerned about some of those blemishes. They're not going to show up.
Keith Blankenship on YouTube says, yes, love learning more each time with you guys. Thank you.
Welcome. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time shaping any of this. I'm going to do it after I get the skin on, and I can do it from the outside. And I can do a lot of this face work by pulling his face back. Okay, now because his neck is going to be as narrow a spot, I am going to stretch that a bit.
Marco says, it's a pleasure to see you guys. Sure, I'm here.
Keep those comments coming. I'm going to take some Pro 1 hide paste, and I'm going to put it probably from the eyes back, just on the wide part of the head here and on the ears. I'm not going to go down the neck because I can always access that through the opening in the body, and I'm not going to get it up around my eyes because I don't want to get hide paste all over my eyes. Just from about here on back, it's going to help me slide that skin on, and then wherever I need it as I go, I'm going to get a smaller brush, and I will tuck it in and tuck the brush in there and kind of cover where I didn't get before. Now, a word about hide paste. We've got some wonderful hide paste these days, and we've got Dermagrip and we've got Pro 1. Some of you like to use latex caulk, is very good. I think Dermagrip even comes in a little squeeze pouch, doesn't it, with a little nozzle in it? Do they still do that?
Yes. Yes.
So there's a lot of different methods of putting hide paste on. When we do a large animal, some of these pastes are so good that they tack up a little bit too quick for us. So if we're doing a big animal, like say a life-size elk, for instance, or a life-size deer, something big, even a big black bear, the glue's going to start setting up much quicker than we can actually handle it. So we either have to put our glue in at small amounts at certain times as we're sewing, because tomorrow we're not going to be able to move it. Some of these glues tack up so good, so fast, you lose your taxiability. On big animals, a lot of times we'll use the dextrin-based glues, like the pre-mixed hide paste from, can't remember who from, but any of the pre-mixed, the brown hide paste gives you plenty of taxability for a long time. Westco, I was thinking. That was a test for you. Oh, we got another coon treed.
You're on safety duty when you leave.
Okay, now I'm just real gently, I don't think I've even disturbed an eye yet. Real gently sliding this on.
Craig Metz would like to know if you could have pre-sculpted your ear liners and earbuds like you would on deer with a bobcat.
Yes, I could have, except the amount of ear butt on this bobcat is so little, I would have lost it by now. You know, by by having it connected to my ear. On a bigger animal, I'd do it every time. And yes, you can. Somewhere he should have an ear.
Okay.
Okay, when I get to this point, I'm just going to try to not stab myself with leg rods. I'm just going to try to situate what I know goes where, and that's the same thing with any life-size animal. There's things you know where they go, and there's things you won't know where they go. There's unknowns and knowns. The knowns are, I know that his ears should go in their little ear receptacles, and they slipped right in, and I can squeeze that clay right up to that ear butt and help hold it into place. I know that his nose should go right here, and hopefully his eyes line up right about where I put the glass, or the acrylic. Okay, now one thing more I'd like to do here is on a bobcat, from his ear cartilage, that ear cartilage does not stop. It doesn't stop right when your ear enters the head, where it touches the head. That ear cartilage actually spans all the way up to probably about here on each side, long ways up there. If I had tried to sculpt that in ahead of time, it would be gone also. I'm going to take a little bit of clay, and before I set his eyes, I'm going to put a little ribbon of clay up where that web would be, and I'm going to stretch it right up onto the ear liner itself. Just a little bean of clay like that. You can go through the eye or the mouth, wherever you want. I'll go through the mouth. It looks a little easier. And I just stuck it on a stick. I put it way up where that cartilage goes into the head. And I'm going to attempt to shape that little webbing so I have a more natural transition into the animal's skull. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Try to match the smart thing to do would be to roll out 2 pieces of clay, make sure they're the same size. I've never been accused of being smart. Nobody helped me out there, did they, in the studio here? No. Thanks.
Allison?
Now, if you need to taxi skin, I've got the big foam rougher, but the little one is pretty handy for this type of a application. Okay, now I can feel I have a nice marble of clay right here. It turned into a marble when it got up in there, but I can shape that little webbing really nice. I can make it very, very thin and really make that cartilage look kind of natural. Now it's just positioned where I want it. It's not at all like it's going to be. I'll do that later, just so I've got it where I want it up here. And now at the same time, I'm taking my fingers on the back and I'm feeling that clay that I put in, and I'm pushing that clay right up tight to fill any void between the ear liner and the mannequin. I have some rolled up skin here. Oh, thanks. And this is a small foam rougher. These things are great for taxiing skin. And now feel, use your fingers to feel. I have nice transition, nice enough that I can fine tune it later. Nice transition up the back of the ear. I don't have any balls of skin. I got a real nice union between my ear webbing up here. Got a little ball of skin I'm going to stretch out. Same on the other side. Remember what taxidermy means. It means to arrange the skin, to taxi the skin. We're moving the skin. Now, in the ear, on the outside edge of these ears, you have that little bitty, I always called it the secondary auricle, Henry's pocket, I think. It comes in a few different names, people call it. Different books. People aren't even entirely sure what it's used for, picking up high frequencies or that sort of thing. But as the one Brett did last week is nice and firm, and the clay is hardened up really nice. The one I just did before we started today is not, so I keep smashing it. So I have to keep going back and make sure that I don't ruin it and forget about it. Okay, now I'm not worried about the eyes yet, but I would like to keep them centered over the artificial eye, glass eye. So I'm just going to, with your hands, you're going to keep moving them where they don't belong. So I'm just replacing the skin. We'll do an eye set later. If I did a really nice eye set now, I would probably have to do it 3 or 4 times. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the nose. And the reason I'm going to do the nose, and I do this on deer too, if I do the lips and tuck the lips at this point, I probably am going to pull this nose skin unnaturally down the front of the nose. And a lot of times you're going to see deer mounts, and you will see the pad of the nose, the rhinarium of the nose, pulled too far down the front of the face. What the person probably did is they tucked the lips. Boy, that's going good. They tuck like crazy, tuck, 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 get the lips all tucked. Now they've tucked too much lip skin, and the nose pad has been pulled down the front. So you'll tend to accidentally do that on every lip and nose combination that you do. So I like to do the nose first, and then that will show me exactly how much skin I have to work with to tuck my lips. Now I'm going to put just a little bit of clay on the surface of this nose, and we do this on deer too. A lot of times these, when you flesh an animal, you flesh the skin on the nose, and because it's a different type of material, it's not quite leather, it's difficult to get it really nice and smooth and level. So if you put a layer of clay on the nose, thin, on a deer I would say as thin as a dime. On a bobcat I would say thinner than a dime, but it's going to take up any imperfections that you have in your fleshing. You're going to have thick spots on your fleshing, you're going to have thin spots on your fleshing. Even if you do a really nice job, it's probably going to be slightly uneven. By putting a little bit of clay on the surface of your nose, it'll take up that irregular fleshing job you did. And I like to, I'm going to start with my nostrils out. And I'm putting a little hide paste on my face, still trying to stay away from the eyes. I've seen exceptional taxidermists in the past who have completely covered their whole face, eyes, and everything with hide paste. And I think the philosophy is that that glue is going to glue the eyes, it's going to glue the skin, everything all together. They end up with a nice product in the end, but I would have a terrible mess. Yeah, I've got to put a little on the, I'll put a little on the surface of the nose where I did clay. It'll mix with your clay, won't hurt the set. Now I'm going to pull my skin down to where I know I can get my lips tucked. You don't want, and whenever you're doing life size, this is very important. You can't tuck your lips or get to this point and decide that your lips are not going to fit. Your lips have to reach your lip slot. If they don't, something's wrong, and there's a good chance it's your face fit. So be a little careful when you're test fitting. You know, of course, we want the paws to fit, we want the belly to fit, we want all that, but we really want to make sure that when our eyes are where they're supposed to be, that our lips fit where they're supposed to be, that the ears fit where they're supposed to be. Make sure all of that jives. Don't just worry about legs and tail and all that sort of thing. Okay, now I'm going to take a little eye tool. I love my little bamboo tools. And I'm going to tuck my nose. Now, if you use good reference, like these are exceptional photographs, but check the detail on the nostril shots. They're very, very good. Okay, my nose lined up nice. I'm seeing one thing, he's got a pretty nice valley, and his mouth's open a little bit, but he's got a pretty nice valley on both sides of the cartilage on his nose, kind of where the cartilage would come out. This side is really nice. This side I'm against hard foam. I think I could use a little bit of a crease there, and maybe when I'm off camera I'll tear this out and redo it a little bit. Now I'm going to take some kind of a tool like this, anything kind of sharp, and I'm going to tuck that little isthmus, which I said we don't want a big old dark stripe going down the face of his muzzle. And this is another thing, you're going to want to watch this as he dries. You're going to want to keep pushing this together. Okay, once I have that in place, I'm going to take tool of my choice, and I'm going to show you a few different tools that you can use for tucking lips. When we tuck deer lips, big animal lips, we have a sawed-off kind of putty knife that works exceptional good. I mean, it's like a 1/2 inch wide, 3/4 inch wide. Works very well for tucking big lips. These are not big lips. These are kind of thin little lips, and we want to be careful tucking them. We have a small slot, petite lips. We just got to take a little care tucking them. And I have a little too much skin, so I'd like to trim that off a little. And a good lip tuck, you get these sets with all these different tools in them. This is a little chisel tool, works pretty good to tuck lips. This one is thinner, wider. Don't be afraid when you get these to take them over to your belt sander or your grinder and shape them into what you want. You can make them work really nice. We have a lot of these different eye tools, all big assortment of eye tools. I made my favorite eye tool at one time out of a deer antler. I got little finger imprints here, little deer antler. This is nothing more than a brass rod that I took over to the sander and shaped it the way I wanted it. On this side, little hockey stick type of a shape, thin down really thin. You can cut deer lips in foam with this. This works really well. But it's just, I've had this for 40 some years. I had this before deer had lips. Now another thing to note is lips tuck nicer and cleaner and better when they're somewhat dry. Not crispy dry so you're going to break them, but just a little on the dry side. Wet, moist, gushy lips don't tuck very well. Okay, I've tucked my front. Now I'm going to tuck my bottom. I tucked my top front. Now I'm going to tuck my bottom front. And what I'm doing is I'm dividing my tucking job in half because I know where that goes, I know where this goes, I know where these go, but I don't know where all this other stuff goes. So by tucking the top center, then the bottom center, now the next thing I'm going to tuck is my back corners, and that's going to really take the guesswork out of where the skin goes. Bottom corner went in really nice. Now I'm going to tuck the whole bottom lip. Now, depending on your attitude of your animal, you notice on dogs and cats at home, they have that bottom lip. Sometimes you see a whole lot of darkness, fleshy, different colors in that bottom lip. And if they're really relaxed, that bottom lip can sag immensely. And so if you end up with something like that, you're going to have to finish it. Ideally, I would like to tuck most of that. Now, as I'm trying to taxi some of the skin forward, I'm also trying to ruin my eye over here. I'm getting my front lip out of the way so I can finish tucking the bottom, my top lip. Okay, once I have my bottom tucked all the way from back to front, then I'm going to start on the top lip, the part that's not tucked here. Okay, and you want, I'd like hair to hair all the way around. Feel that you don't have any wrinkles. Got some bunched up skin up here. I'm just going to move it down. Okay, and then you're going to repeat the other side. And the way I always tell how nice of a lip slot I got is once I get it tucked, pull it apart with your fingers. If it doesn't pull apart, I mean, this is what drying is going to do. So try to spread it apart best you can. And if it doesn't spread apart, we'll watch it for the next day or so. We're not going to put any pins or anything in this. If we get it tucked and it looks like it's going to stay, we'll just babysit it and watch it, rather than have a bunch of pinholes that we have to fix.
Keith would like to know, do you do the top first or bottom on all mounts?
My method, not a right or wrong, my method is top center, bottom center, back corners, and then usually from the back corner, it's just a tuck, tuck, tuck to the front on the bottom, and a tuck, tuck, tuck so the bottom's done. And then I will come back and do the top, and then I'll do the top on the other side. But it really is helpful if you divide it in half. If you start back here and go, you're trying to tuck top and bottom, bottom, top and bottom, top and bottom, and you get here, all of a sudden your center of your face is way off, either too short or too long. If you know where that's supposed to go and you tuck it now and then come back and tuck those, this won't move on you. So I divide it in half, and I guess I do the bottom first, but you could do the top first, the same method. And then I think I'll probably, really quick, I'd go through the eye set procedure the same as you would a deer, using your reference. I have a little too much eye skin here. I should be able to tuck it, but on these acrylic eyes, I'm using flex eyes. I'm going to use my bamboo tool because it's a little on the softer, gentler side. And I'm going to tuck my eye skin, and you're going to follow. When I set the eyes, we talked about eye setting last week, I think. When you set the eyes, animals like bobcat look very straight ahead, but not straight ahead. Some people experts have said the degree is 10 degrees out or 4 degrees out or 6 degrees out. I don't know how you can tell right from wrong, but straight ahead, but so the back corners don't protrude out. So tip them out just a little slight. If I had to pick something, I would say 7, 8 degrees, and that's nothing more than an uneducated guess. Now, once I get my eye skin tucked, my favorite choice of tool would be an angular shader or a little filberts brush like this. It's very soft and it's very forgiving and really nice, and you're kind of coaxing your eyelid where you want it. You can tuck skin with it. And if I can get him roughed in so I can just get him up and look at him and see how he looks is pretty helpful. His eyelashes are way up in the air, so I need to roll them down over his eyes. Okay, I'd get one eye close as I can. I'll probably wet it down. I'm going to store him overnight. We'll try to have him looking a little bit better the next time you see him. And my goal is to, it's a one-eyed cat sleeping in a seafood store. My goal is to get this face looking really, really bobcat-y. And what that does for you, this has always been the way I've done taxidermy. If I can make this to where I'm happy with it, sewing is really fast and easy. If I look at this and I say, he's never going to look good, sewing's going to seem like it takes me months. But if I look at him and go, wow, he's going to be cool, sewing goes well, everything goes well. So we spend more time at this point now on the face and get that looking really, really, really nice, and then we go on to the rest of the animal. We get the face done first. We did a wolf the other day, get the head done. We even blow dry that head, make that head look like a wolf. The rest of him's fun. So work on your heads first. Got a one-eyed bobcat. And he will go into the freezer or refrigerator. He doesn't have to be froze today. But I think I'll call him Blinky for now.
Blinky.
Okay, and what do we have for a giveaway?
So we are giving away the Zyme modeling tool cleanup. I believe it might have been one that you were
Nope, you got it.
I have it. Oh, I do have it. I'm sorry.
This is one of my favorites. I went to pick it out, and Cindy said, that is our #1 selling tool. It's a Zyme tool. It's got a very sharp edge on one side, great for tucking, another pointy little edge on the other side. All of the Zyme tools are, you won't find one that you won't find a use for, and they're reasonably priced, and we love them.
Yeah.
And that
And
goes
the winner goes to Paul Phillips.
Paul, congratulations. You're going to like it, and you'll get that with your first order. So you order something, and we'll include your Zyme tool with your order.
Yeah.
And join us next week. Blinky's going to look a little bit better. We'll have him looking a little more Bobcat-y. And we may even, we'll have his toes sewed up, and maybe we'll try sewing on him and try to finish this project out.